Hello, and welcome to the This Happened Today in History podcast. I am your host, Mr. Miller. This podcast will cover a number of topics that happened on this date in history. Please visit the podcast webpage at thishappenedtoday.buzzsprout.com. There you can download the notes page, which will help you organize the information as well as develop your own ideas on how these events change the world around us. If you're interested in hearing more, please consider subscribing so you will not miss out on what happens tomorrow in history. Today is June 27th. In 1940, the Germans set up a two-way radio communication in their newly occupied French territory, employing their most sophisticated coding machine, Enigma, to transmit information. The Germans established radio stations in Brest and the town of Cherbourg. Signals would be transmitted to German bombers so as to direct them to targets in Britain. The Enigma coding machine, invented in 1919 by Hugo Koch, a Dutchman, looked like a typewriter and was originally employed for business purposes. The German army adapted the machine for wartime use and considered its encoding system unbreakable. They were wrong. The Brits had broken the code as early as the German invasion of Poland and had intercepted virtually every message sent through the system. Britain nicknamed the intercepted message Ultra. In 1957, smoking causes lung cancer. The link between smoking and lung cancer is one of the direct cause and effect a special report by the Medical Research Council had found. The report published today studied the dramatic increases in deaths from lung cancer over the past 25 years, including the main cause was smoking. But tobacco firms have rejected the findings, saying that they are merely a matter of opinion. The government had indicated that an educational campaign to raise awareness on the dangers of smoking be launched via local health authorities. The report states that in 1945, the mortality rate from lung cancer was 188 deaths in every million. 10 years later, the figure had almost doubled to 388 in every million. The report, which looked at evidence from 21 investigations in 6 countries, found cigarette smoking to be the predominant cause for this rise. Mr. Vaughan Morgan, Parliamentary Secretary of the Ministry of Health, said the government feels that it is right to ensure that this latest authoritative opinion is brought effectively to public notice so that everyone may know the risks involved. But he made it very clear to the people armed with the facts would be able to make up their own minds and smoking would not be banned. The prohibition of smoking in theaters, cinemas, and public transport is not on the agenda, he added. It is estimated that between £600 million and £620 million in revenues generated by the sale of cigarettes. The Conservatives have questioned what alternative taxes the government would introduce to cover that figure should cigarette smoking now be eliminated. Members of the general public, asked by the BBC for their reaction to the findings, appeared unfazed. One smoker said that although he was not in considering giving up smoking himself, he thought the younger generation would be well advised not to start. Another man said he was not frightened at all by the findings and may even consider increasing the number that he smokes each day. These views were reflected in the stock market, where shares in leading tobacco companies remained largely unaffected by this news. And finally, in 2008, in a gesture demonstrating its commitment to halt its nuclear weapons program, North Korea blew up the most visible symbol of its plutonium introduction Friday. The 60-foot cooling tower at the North's main nuclear plant was demolished on Friday as promised by the North Korean government. The collapse of the concrete structure, the most conspicuous part of the nuclear complex at Yongbyon, 60 miles north of Pyongyang in North Korea capital, bore the witness to the incremental progress that has been made in American-led multilateral efforts to end North Korea's nuclear weapons programs. On Thursday, North Korea submitted its first significant, although partial, account of its arms programs. Almost simultaneously, President Bush announced that Washington was removing North Korea from a U.S. list of state sponsors of terrorism and issued a proclamation lifting some sanctions under the Trading with the Enemy Act. The complex, built around a Soviet-era nuclear reactor, is the North's only known source of plutonium. North Korea had started disabling the reactor in other parts of the complex last year under agreement with the United States, South Korea, Japan, Russia, and China. Under the deal, North Korea has been receiving full aid from the 5 nations, but it is not obliged to destroy any of its nuclear facilities until further talks are held to determine what rewards it will get in return. South Korea and U.S. officials welcomed the early demolition of the cooling tower, which was filmed by international television networks for broadcast later, as an encouraging sign of North Korea's commitment to a broader deal by which Washington hopes to eradicate all the North's nuclear assets. By demolishing the tower, North Korea appears to demonstrate that it would not produce any more plutonium. A North Korea expert at the Asiatic Research Center in Korea University in Seoul The cooling tower carries waste heat from the reactor. With the communist government keeping its nuclear activity shrouded in secrecy, plumes of steam curling from the tower into the atmosphere and spy satellite photographs provided outside observers with the most visible sign of operations at the complex. It also reminded the rest of the world of the operation's dangerous implications. North Korea shocked the world in October of 2006 by detonating a nuclear bomb in an underground test. It is also suspected by U.S. officials of providing nuclear technologies to countries like Syria. The tower is technically insignificant structure, relatively easy to rebuild. North Korea has also been disabling, though not destroying, more sensitive parts of the nuclear complex, such as the 5-megawatt reactor, a plant that makes its fuel, and laboratory that extracts plutonium from the spent fuel. It's symbolic, but in real terms, whether demolishing or not, a cooling tower that has already been disabled doesn't make much difference. A North Korean expert at Seoul's Mangyong University. The demolition also shows that North Korea has concluded the complex, in service for several decades, has served its purpose after producing an unknown number of nuclear weapons, Mr. Lee said. U.S. officials have accused North Korea of hiding an uranium enrichment program, a charge the North's declaration on Thursday failed to address.
You have been listening to the This Happened Today in History podcast. I thank you for listening, and I hope that you have enjoyed learning about historical events from the past. Thank you to the following websites for their information regarding today's topics:
ThePeopleHistory.com, World War II Enigma Machine at History.com, Great Britain Smoking and Lung Cancer linked at news.bbc.co.uk, and North Korea Destroys Tower at Nuclear Plant at nytimes.com.
The music used as the background track for this podcast is Americana, created by Kevin MacLeod on Incompetech.com. If you enjoyed this information and would like to hear more, please consider subscribing, as this will keep the historical events in your feed in the morning for each day. I hope you have a great day.